Are you ready to have a little chat? Because I just have so much to say. Get the tea ready, guys. We're about to get into it. Hey guys, what's up? It's Belle. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hello. And if you've come back, thank you so much. Today, you guys, we are doing a different video than I originally planned to. So I was originally going to do for you guys my 25 books that I want to read in 2025. However, in light of a few things that have sort of been going on in the bookish community in the last couple of days, I came up with the idea for this video because I just think it's something that's needed at the moment. So just to quickly address the elephant in the room, or if you're not up to date with sort of what is going on, I'm not going to talk too deeply about what's happened in the last few days because I'm the first person to be like, if drama does not involve you, like, don't stick your nose into it, don't stick your foot into it. But I think what's happened here is it has now affected, you know, the community that I'm a part of, but also like so many of my fellow bookish creators who I am quite close with, who were involved and like directly mentioned in what I'm about to talk about, that I felt so strongly about it that I feel like I needed to make this video. So a few days ago, there was a very largely known content creator on YouTube who made a video basically slamming and shaming people who read romance books and who consider romance literature, right? So this creator basically made an entire video. They have millions and millions and millions of followers on here, and they basically were like shaming people, and in particular women, who were enjoying these types of books and saying some absolutely nasty things. And as I was mentioning, they were actually like directly mentioning some of the creators that I'm quite close with in real life in said video. Now, I actually saw this video pop up on my For You page, but I ignored it because, as I said to you guys, when I see a video like that, like, I know you're trying to get views, and I know it's clickbait. So I never actually watched the entire video. It's now been taken down, and thank goodness, because I just think it's wrong on so many levels. However, what I wanted to do for you guys today is talk about some of the best romance books that I've read and my go-to romance book recommendations. So this is going to be basically an entire video to show you how incredible romance can actually be, and I'm going to give you guys some of my favorite recommendations because, like I said, I'm sick and tired of the romance genre being disregarded as being like a really you know, elaborate and, you know, thought-provoking and intellectual genre, because I feel like it's just always tossed to the side, and it is really sad when I see it being like people saying that you just want to read it for the spicy stuff, you only want to read it for the smart, and it's like, no, that is just not the case. So today, you guys, I've left my list over there. I have to go get it. I do have an entire list of romance books that I always recommend, and if you guys are looking for a great romance book, I've got your back. I've been reading adult romance for 3 years now, and I've read quite a lot of books, as you can see behind me, and these are the ones that I always recommend. They also just have some of the most beautiful love stories, beautiful messages, beautiful family, and there is so many things that you can take from a romance book that you can take from literally any other genre you read, whether that's if you read thrillers, if you read general fiction, non-fiction, lit fiction, fantasy. There's so many different things you can take from a romance book that I'm sure you can get from literally any book you read. The one thing even that all books have in common is each of them will teach you a lesson, regardless of what you are reading. Every single book you read will teach you a lesson. Okay, so with that being said, you guys, let's celebrate the romance genre today because it is real literature. And let me give you guys some of my favorite romance book recommendations of all time. So I want to shout out one of my best friends, Lucy, who bought me this cup yesterday, and it says Hot Girls Read Smart, and that's absolutely right, bestie. And you know I'm drinking my caffeine-free tea in it. We're getting serious. The glasses are going on, okay? The glasses are going on. Anyway, you guys, as I was saying, I have broken this video down into like series and then standalones. So first of all, we'll go through series and different types of genres and things like that. So first of all, I want to start with my bread and butter, and we're going to be talking about some small town cowboy romance series, okay? I personally feel like you have not lived until you have read a small town cowboy romance book. There is just something so wholesome about these types of books. Not only is the romance just like so giddy and like delicious, but I personally feel like in small town romances, the found family element is so prevalent, and it is just so, I don't know, I feel like you have a real lasting connection with every single character within these types of books. You know what I mean? And they're always just comfy and cozy. Starting off with probably the world's favorite small town cowboy romance series and my favorite cowboy romance series. We have the Chestnut Springs series. Now this is by Elsie Silver. This is probably, as I said, probably the most like famous cowboy romance series that is on the market at the moment. This is a small town romance series that is interconnected. So these are interconnected standalones. And I'm going to say that a few times within this video. An interconnected standalone means that each book follows a different couple. They are in the same world. However, you do not have to read them in order. You know, if you want to sort of jump around, you're more than welcome to. You don't have to read them one after the other for them to make sense, okay? So there are 5 books in this series, okay? So this follows a group of brothers and their friends, and basically each book is like one of their individual love stories, okay? And as I said, we're set in a small little cowboy town called Chestnut Springs. Book number 1 is Flawless. This follows Summer and Rhett. So Rhett is a bad boy bull rider, and basically he has like a little bit of a PR stunt go wrong and he needs to fix his image. So his PR agent basically sends out a rep to keep him in line, and that rep happens to be the PR agent's daughter. So it's a little bit forbidden as well, super cheeky, and yeah, so gorgeous. The second one is Heartless. Now, this is my personal favorite book in this series. It's one of my favorite books of all time. This follows Cade and Willa. So Cade is a grumpy single dad and he's needing a babysitter for his little boy Luke over the summer. He ends up hiring Willa, who is a wild redhead crazy lady who he isn't sure that he trusts with his son, but she definitely intrigues him. I love this one so much. Then you have Powerless, which is book number 3. Now, this one follows Jasper and Salome. This is a childhood friends to lovers runaway bride trope. So basically, on her wedding day, Salome realizes that she can't marry the man she's engaged to, and she calls up Jasper, her longtime childhood friend, and says, I need to get out of here. And the two of them sort of go on that like road trip of a lifetime, runaway bride type of thing. Then you have Reckless, another one of my absolute favorites in this series. Now, this is an accidental pregnancy and reverse grumpy sunshine. So you have Theo and Winter. So Theo is also a bull rider and Winter is a doctor. The two of them have a one-night stand, and you can sort of assume what happens from there. And finally, you have Hopeless. Now, this is the 5th and final book. It follows Bo and Bailey. So Bo is an ex-military man, and then you have Bailey, who works at the local bar. Now, her family doesn't have the best reputation, so her and Bo sort of strike up a deal. He said, you know, I can prove that your last name is not giving you a bad reputation, so let's get married. You take my name and see if people start treating you differently, and it goes from there. Keeping with Elsie Silver, who honestly is just one of my favorite authors of all time, we do have the first 2 books in the Rose Hill series. So there's another small town romance series that Elsie is writing. However, this one is all based around single dads. Again, we've got that interconnected standalone, so you can read them out of order, whichever one you want, whichever one tickles your fancy. We have Wild Love. So this one here follows Rosie and Ford. So Ford is a billionaire. He's come back to his small town to open up a recording studio there. Rosie's just come back into town. They're like childhood friends to lovers again. She ends up getting a job at the recording studio. And then you have Wild Eyes, which was like in my top 5 reads of 2024. This one is spectacular. Again, we've got single dad. He has 2 beautiful kids. The female main character is a singer. So she comes into town to record at the recording studio. The two of them have like this cute little meet cute involving a bear. It's kind of crazy. This one is just like next level. I don't know how to explain to you guys that this book took a piece of my soul, so hopefully you'll love that as well. Next up, we have the Silver Pines series, and this is by Paisley Hope. Now, these are new. If you haven't heard of these before, please put them on your TBR because they're going to be the next big like cowboy romance series. So you have Holding the Reins is book number 1. So this follows Nash and Cece. So Nash is sort of a bit of a hybrid. Nash is a cowboy, but he's also a retired ice hockey player. So he's come back to town to sort of set up this like rec center so that he can teach all the kids in the town hockey, or like it's basically like a sporting arena or like center. And then his best friend's little sister Cece comes back into town as well after splitting with the worst man on the planet. He's literally a rat, okay? She doesn't really trust him. She still thinks he's a little bit of a player and a bad boy, and they end up working together at his rec center. So that one is a 5-star, so amazing. And then you have Training the Heart, which is book number 2. Now this series is not complete yet. There are 2 more books coming, I believe. You have Wade and you have Ivy. So Wade is the eldest brother in this series here. He's looking for a new horse trainer for the ranch because his is like going on maternity leave. He ends up hiring Ivy, who is like sunshine to his absolute grump. She's a horse trainer. She basically gives him a bit of a run for his money. So I love that too. Just so you guys know, these books here are so spicy for small town romance. And you know what? I ate it up with pride, okay? Finally, within this little genre, we have the Rebel Blue Ranch series. Now, this is by Lila Sage, another small town cowboy country romance series, okay? Interconnected standalones. So the first book is done and dusted. This follows Brooks and Emmy. This is a brother's best friend. Again, like little bit forbidden. He owns like a local bar and she is training horses, I believe. I read this one quite a while ago, but it's still good. The next one is Swift and Saddled. This is my favorite in the series so far. This follows Wes and Ada. Wes is a cowboy and Ada is an interior designer. She gets hired to work on the project that he's like renovation project that he's doing on his ranch and on his farm. And it's like that reverse grumpy sunshine dynamic again. So she's a bit gloomy and he's like sunshine and happy. And then you have Lost and Lassoed, which is the most recent book. This one follows Teddy and Gus. This one's definitely like a rivals to lovers. We've got the single parent trope in there as well with Gus and the nanny. So boss and the nanny, dad and the nanny, which is really fun as well. Alrighty, our second little category here we have is sports romance, which is a genre that I have been loving, especially in the past year. I've read so many sports romance books. Again, with this one here, we're in like a contemporary romance setting, but our main characters, either half of the main couple, a sport plotline is very heavy within the book, and we know that that's like their career, so we call them a sports romance. So whether that's in a college setting, in a professional setting, we've got so many different types of sports. So I'm going to talk about some of those series now. The first series I'm going to talk about is one of my favorite series of all time, okay? And it is the Windy City series, and this is by Liz Tomford. So as I mentioned, sports romance. This one is a little bit more interesting. It's interconnected standalones again. However, we've got like a different sport within each book, which is nice. So again, because these are interconnected standalones, you are more than welcome to read them out of order. It's so up to you. However, I do recommend reading books 3 and 4 together. I don't really mind where else you go, but I think these two should be one after the other. But anyways, let me talk about them. So book number 1 is Mile High. So this follows Stevie and Xander's. So this is like sort of a rivals to lovers again. So Xander's is a very famous ice hockey player and Stevie has just been hired to work. She's like a flight attendant. She's been hired to work the team airplane for the entire season, right? So again, you can see like the little airplane on the front cover. This one is so good, you guys. Like I love it. I know a lot of people like hit and miss, but I still really love this one. Next up, you have The Right Move, which I love this book more than life. Like it's not even funny. I think like this is where the series is like god tier for me. Like from here onwards, it's god tier. So this follows Ryan and Indy. So Ryan is a very famous basketball player. He is the brother of the female main character from Mile High. So Stevie has a best friend called Indy. She's also a flight attendant. Basically, Stevie rings up Ryan one day and he says, hey, my bestie needs a place to live because she's just broken up with her partner. Can she stay in your apartment because you're never there? And Ryan is basically like the biggest grumpy grump. He's like, Stevie, I love you. You're my twin sister, but literally I cannot have people in my house. You know, I don't like it, blah, 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 blah. And Stevie's like, it's okay. You'll miss each other because she's always flying and you're always playing. Indy ends up moving in with Ryan and we get this roommate situation, but we also get fake dating and it is so good. Grumpy sunshine. This man is the blueprint. Like, I'm not playing around. Book number 3 is Caught Up. So this is Kai and Miller. So Kai is a single dad. He's got a little boy called Max, and basically he is a baseball player, very famous baseball player, and he is now needing like a nanny to look after his son because he's still like an infant. He's a baby, right? And basically every nanny that the team tries to find or he tries to find is just not good enough for him. He feels like they are not good enough to like take care of his son. So I believe it's his manager, ends up sitting down with him and saying, look, we need to find somebody. I've found a girl that I'm going to bring in and I want you to meet her. I think she'd be a great fit to be the nanny. This girl ends up being his manager's daughter. They don't really get off on the best foot, but it's so good. And finally, play along, book number 4. I always say that like these two are my favorites in this series, and I like this one's like my favorite, but this one, bro, every time I think about this, I'm like, oh, could it overtake? Could it? It's so good. This one is also baseball. So we do have Isaiah and we have Kennedy. So Isaiah is the brother of Kai. That's why I was sort of saying to you guys, I think you should read this, then this. Okay, so 1, then 2. You can read them separately, but I think there's like a beautiful story between the brothers here as well that makes sense in like a continuity sort of mindset. Okay, so this one follows Isaiah and Kennedy. This one is Reverse Grumpy Sunshine, Accidental Marriage in Vegas, Marriage of Convenience. Oh my god, the best, like honestly one of the best books I read last year. It's phenomenal. He's a baseball player and she is the athletic trainer on his team. Following that, we have the Maple Hills series by Hannah Grace. You probably noticed there's a book missing and I'll tell you why that is. This book is a college sports romance series, so we are following ice hockey players, okay? Book number 1 is Icebreaker, which every man and their dog knows, and I really enjoyed this book. This one follows Nate and Anastasia. Anastasia is a figure skater and Nate is an ice hockey player. Basically, an incident sort of occurs where only one ice rink is available at their university, so the hockey team and the skating team have to like share a rink, and the story sort of goes from there. And then you have Wildfire, and this one is actually set at a summer camp, and I love this book so much. You have Russ and you have Aurora. If you want something that is going to give you like nostalgia, like, you know, I wish I was at a summer camp, I wish I was a summer camp counselor vibes, you will love this. These two basically meet each other the night before summer vacation. They're both at college, as I mentioned, and they have a one-night stand. They don't really get each other's details, and then have the biggest shock of their life when they turn up to their job the next day at a summer camp and realize they're both working at the same camp over the summer and fraternization is not allowed. There's a third book in this series called Daydream. I just didn't like it, so I'm not recommending it to you. Now, finally, there is a book here that I want to talk about. This is going to be part of a series. However, the next book doesn't come out until 2 weeks from now, and that is Collide by Balcabra. I love this book so much. If you have read Icebreaker, the one I just showed you, this is like her hotter older sister. This one's so much better in my opinion. They're both great books, but I personally love this one just a little bit better. You have Aiden and you have Summer. Aiden is the captain of the hockey team and Summer is writing a research paper. She's basically like studying to be a sports psychologist, and she gets paired up with Aiden and she can't stand hockey players and they have to work on her paper together, and the story goes from there. Man, I got a lot of books for this next section. All right, guys, so next up I have a bit of a hybrid category. So we have contemporary slash billionaire. These books here are basically all like set in a contemporary setting. There's no like sport or anything like that, and they're just like, yeah, what I would consider a contemporary romance, and some of them have like billionaire mention in them as well. So the first series I'm going to talk about, of course, is the Twisted series. This is by Anna Huang. Now, if you are on social media, you will have seen that this series actually just got greenlit to be a TV show on Netflix, which I'm so excited about because I actually feel like I have the biggest trust in Netflix to actually deliver a good series. Because I mean, if you see things like Bridgerton, where, you know, how this is set is, you know, each book is like an individual love story, same as like what Bridgerton's done with the show. Each season is one book, which I'm very, very, very happy that Netflix got it because I feel like it has the potential to do really well. This book here follows a group of friends from college, and each book is one of the girls' individual love stories. So we start off with Twisted Love. This follows Alex and Ava. So this is also a brother's best friend. So Alex is a billionaire and Ava, I'm pretty sure, is a photographer. There's also like a little bit like a mystery element to this one as well, which is really good. And of course, we're kicking up the spice getting into these books, you guys. Second book in the series is Twisted Games, which is one of my favorite books of all time. This follows Reese and Bridget. So Bridget is a modern day princess and Reese is her bodyguard. It is so good. It is forbidden romance done so well, especially in like a contemporary romance setting where you do have like the modern day princess. It is just delicious. This is again one of my Roman Empire books. Then you have Twisted Hate, which follows Jules and Josh. This is an enemies with benefits, which up until I read this, I actually hadn't read anything like that before. It's very different. If you do love like two Leo, like fiery main characters, you will like this book. And then we finish off with Twisted Lies, which is Christian and Stella. So Christian is a billionaire. He owns a security company in the building that Stella lives in. And Stella is like an up and coming influencer. She's like so shy of cracking the 1 million followers. And her agent sort of says to her, you know, if you had a boyfriend, like you'd be so much more personable and people would follow you. So she strikes a deal with Christian and it's fake dating. Keeping on the sort of like billionaire train from the Twisted series, we do have some books by Lauren Asher. Okay, so the first series that I want to talk about is probably my favorite, and it is the Dreamland Billionaires. This is a trilogy, again interconnected standalones, so you're more than welcome to read them out of order. This basically follows 3 brothers and their grandfather has left them a will, and basically within this will there is like tasks that each of the individual brother has to do in order to unlock a portion of their inheritance. So book number 1 is The Fine Print. We have Rowan and we have Zara. So Rowan is taking charge of this theme park park called Dreamland, which is sort of like a Disneyland, right? And then we have his employee Zara, who drunkenly submits like a proposal for, you know, a way to revamp the park one night when she's, you know, had one too many drinks. He ends up accepting it and giving her a job, and it is Grumpy Sunshine, and it is so cute. My favorite in this series is book number 2, which is Terms and Conditions. Now this follows Declan and Iris. So what Declan has to do to get his inheritance is he needs to settle down and get married, because his grandfather knew that he never wanted to do that and he had no intention of doing that. So basically he's trying to find a wife, and his assistant Iris ends up stepping up for the job, and it is the best marriage of convenience. Oh my goodness. Then you have Final Offer, which is Callahan and Alana. This is also single parent. I believe that Alana was the single mum in this one, and this is a second chance romance as well. Cal returns to like a family home that he used to own because he has to either like sell it or do it up as part of like the will, and his childhood love that sort of went wrong, Alana actually now lives in the house, and she does not want to move from that house. So yeah, it's a big one, but it's very cute, nice slow burn as well. A sort of sister series to the Dreamland Billionaires is the Lakefront Billionaires. Okay, so we are set in Lake Wisteria, and again, we've got billionaires, which is really nice. First book is Love Redesigned, and I love this book so much. I read it last year. Oh, I think we're getting a package. This book follows Julian and Dahlia. So these are childhood rivals to lovers. Julian is a billionaire, and Dahlia is a very famous like renovation show host. Hold on guys, there's a package at the door. Just got some book mail from Penguin Random House. How exciting. I'll have to open that after I finish. So Julian and Dahlia, as I said, Julian is a billionaire, Dahlia is a renovation show host. They're both back in their small town, and Dahlia has her eye on a property that she really wants to renovate, but also Julian wants the same one for an investment. So they decide to team up on the project together, and it is so good. This is a 5-star book. And then you have Love Unwritten, which is book number 2. This one follows Ellie and Raphael. This is also single dad in this one as well, and the nanny. This is so beautiful. This is also like a very healing story as well. There's like a family trip to Hawaii, which is really fun. So it's a great summer read as well. And then finally in this little like contemporary romance section, I have the Kiss Quotient trilogy, which I do not see enough people talking about and recommending. So if you were around on social media a few years ago, you will have seen the Kiss Quotient floating around. This was really popular, but I never see anybody talking about the back end of this series. Not only is this like a great contemporary romance series that is spicy and whatnot, it has wonderful autism representation, and some of the plots in here as well are just super touching. Can't explain it, okay? So the first book here, you have the Kiss Quotient, which is Michael and Stella. So Stella has Asperger's, I believe. She has never been like intimate with a man before, so she ends up hiring an escort named Michael. And oh my goodness, you guys, this is so good. He basically like teaches her stuff. So if you love like the tutor trope or like the teaching trope for spicy times, you will love this book. My favorite in this series is The Bride Test, which as I said, does not get enough love and does not get enough hype. This follows Kai and Esme. So Esme is like working as a cleaner, and basically she's working at a very fancy hotel. She runs into this old lady and they have a beautiful conversation, and she says, I'm looking for a like wife for my grandson. Will you come to China and meet him? I think you'd be like a great bride for him. And she's like, okay, like I don't know this guy. And because she's sort of at the moment like strapped for cash, she ends up deciding to go for it because she obviously needs the money. She goes over and she meets Kai, who is so beautiful. He's just like the sweetest, softest, like emotion tangled man with autism, and it is just so special. I love this book so much. And then you have The Heart Principle, which is the 3rd book in this series. This follows Anna and Kwan. So Anna is a violinist, and she basically has been struggling for the last year because she had this like stunt. She plays the violin, and she's been in this like stunt where she can't play anymore. Like there was an incident that happened where she like doubts her ability and like her talent, and she's not able to do it anymore. And she's also like in the midst of getting an autism diagnosis, and basically her partner breaks up with her and she decides to go on a dating app, like a Tinder sort of thing, and she meets Kwan, and it is just such a beautiful story. There's also a side story in this around like carer burnout, which I loved so much. Before we get into these standalones, I want to talk about one romance series that I love with everything in my entire soul. I don't have any others for historical romance, but I do quickly just want to talk to you guys about the Bridgerton series, because I think the books are so special in themselves, and I feel like not enough people have read the books, and they are so great. Like, obviously we know there's a very beloved television show. For those who don't know, the Bridgerton series is a historical Regency romance series. We are following a family of 8 siblings, and each of the books, again, we've got interconnected standalones. It's each of the siblings' individual love stories, okay? I actually would recommend reading it in order because there is a hidden identity mystery story, like plot line, that is carried through at least the first 4 books, so I definitely recommend reading them in order. So, but obviously that show came from books, and the books are really special in themselves, so I do want to quickly run through them. First book in this series, we have Queen Charlotte. Now, this is a prequel, and this does follow, you know, a reimagined version of King Charlotte and Queen George. It's an arranged marriage, and it is heartbreaking. If you love a cry, you will love this. Also, just quickly want to say with Bridgerton as well, if you are someone who's not a big fan of spice and doesn't want it too heavy on, like some of the books will have been the ones that I mentioned, if you are a little bit more of a reserved spice gal, you will like Bridgerton because it is not as intense. It is on page, but it is not as intense, which is nice. Following that, you have The Duke and I, which is the first book of the actual siblings story. So you are following Daphne Bridgerton and Simon Bassett. So Simon is a duke, and Daphne, it is her, she's like the eldest Bridgerton daughter. This is a fake dating arrangement as well, so that, you know, so that all of the mamas can get off his back about finding a wife, and all of the eligible suitors will find her desirable. Book number 2 is The Viscount Who Loved Me. This follows Anthony Bridgerton and Kate Sharma. This is an enemies to lovers, absolutely. Anthony is looking for a wife. He is obviously the Viscount. He is striving for perfection. He is striving for the best, and he finds that in Kate's sister Edwina, because she's named the Diamond of the Season. He sets her sight on her. However, these two have an interaction that makes her absolutely heavily dislike him so much that she feels as though he is absolutely not good enough for her sister, and it sort of goes from there. Book number 3 is An Offer from a Gentleman. This follows Benedict Bridgerton and Sophie Beckett. So Benedict is our second eldest brother, and this is like sort of like a Cinderella inspired retelling. Basically, it's like that Cinderella sort of style. Sophie's father passed away. She now lives with her stepmother, who treats her terribly and treats her as a slave. Sophie gets to sneak out one night and go to the Bridgerton masquerade ball, and she meets Benedict, and he is so infatuated by her, and obviously she runs away, and he cannot find her for years and years and years, and it's a very interesting story. Book number 4 is my absolute favorite book of all time. It is Romancing Mr. Bridgerton. This follows Colin Bridgerton and Penelope Featherington. So Colin Bridgerton is the 3rd eldest brother, and Penelope Featherington is his childhood best friend. They have been friends for a very long time. Penelope has been in love with Colin for years, and she feels like he will never ever see her and want her in that way. However, when he comes back from his travels this particular year, after waiting a very long time, things start to change, and it's very interesting. This is like probably the most exciting book in the series too, in terms of like the plot, not just the romance plot. Book number 5 is To Sir Philip with Love. This follows Eloise Bridgerton and Philip Crane. This is sort of like a Sound of Music type of inspired story. So we do have pen pals. Eloise and Philip have been writing to each other. He has just been recently widowed, and he needs some help with his children. So Eloise decides to come and marry him and help out with his children. Anyway. Book number 6 is When He Was Wicked. This is Francesca Bridgerton and Michael Sterling. This is also a widow sort of type of situation. I don't really want to tell you too much about this one, and it is like Guy Falls First. Love this one. Book number 7 is another great one, and I love this one so much. It's In His Kiss, which is Hyacinth Bridgerton, and we have Gareth St. Clair. This one is like another mystery sort of element. We do have these two main characters trying to solve like a diary, like an Italian diary, like a mystery again. Super interesting. And the final book in this series is On the Way to the Wedding, and this is Gregory Bridgerton and Lucy Abernathy, I think. This is like our most chaotic Bridgerton sibling. Gregory, you are insane, and obviously we've got an interrupted wedding. Jacob says hi. Guys, I'm actually a clown. I forgot I've got some dark romance series as well. So of course, next we have dark romance, and dark romance is where I think people are really mean about dark romance. I honestly, personally feel like dark romance have some of the best plots. I know everybody says they're all spice. No. Dark romance is like the thriller of romance. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like we actually get some really interesting and intriguing plots that are not like romantasy. If you guys are wondering why there's no romantasy in here, it's because I include romantasy in a fantasy genre. First series I want want to talk to you guys about is the Never After series by Emily McIntyre. So if you haven't heard of this series before, this is actually a complete standalone series, so you can read whichever one of these that you want in whatever order you want. And essentially these are like twisted reimaginings of our favorite childhood fairy tales. So I'll run through which one is which. Now I'm going to run through in publication order, but as I said, you can read these however you want. It is completely up to you. So book number 1 is Hooked. This is a Peter Pan retelling. So you have Wendy and you have Captain Hook. Also, the premise of this, guys, is like the villains get the girl or the villains get the guy. Okay, so as I said, we've got like a Wendy character and we have a James who is sort of like a Captain Hook mafia sort of romance as well. So we're getting some darker themes. I love this. Then we have Scarred, which is a Lion King retelling. So this one is like a forbidden romance. This one is actually sort of set in like a medieval sort of setting, which I love as well. We've got Tristan and we have Sarah, and enemies to lovers. Then we have Wretched, which is a Wizard of Oz sort of inspired one. So you have Evelina and Nicholas. So Evelina is sort of based around the Wicked Witch of the West. And then you have Nicholas, who's sort of, I believe, based around the Tin Man, I want to say. It's a little bit different in this than Wicked, but this one's really good too. This is another like sort of cartel mafia vibes. I actually loved this one. I think it's also Reverse Grumpy Sunshine. My favorite in the series, which is Twisted. This is an Aladdin retelling. You have Juliet and you have Yasmin. This is like a forced arranged marriage. Oh my God, this is my favorite. Then you have Crossed, which is a Hunchback of Notre Dame retelling here. So you've got Cade and you have Amaya. Oh my goodness, so good. This is also a priest romance. If you like priests, you like this. And finally we have Hexed, which is another one of my favorites. This is a Little Mermaid retelling, okay? So you have here sort of like your Eric and Ursula type of person. So you have Enzo and you have Vanessa. Following that, I have a series that I just adore so much, and you can actually read all of these on Kindle Unlimited, so you don't have to buy the big paperback. It is the Mind F series. This is by St. Abbey. So I am holding up one book. However, there are 5 novellas in this one physical book here, okay? So it's still a series. The series is just broken up into novellas. So it's a great one as well if you're like wanting something quick, only 100 pages per book. It's really good, okay? So this book follows Lana Myers and Logan Bennett. So Lana Myers is a serial killer, and basically it's the story of how she ends up falling for the officer who is working on her case, Mr. Logan Bennett, and he has no idea that she is under his nose the whole time. This series is so twisty and turny and like, oh my gosh, vengeful, and like I just cried and I love it so much. Please read this series. And finally, my favorite dark romance series is the Cat and Mouse Duet. This is more of a duet than a series. There are a few like companion novellas that go with it, but these 2 are the main like series here. So you do have to read these in order. We do have number 1 and we have number 2. So we have Haunting Adeline and Hunting Adeline. This duet is a dark stalker romance. So we have Adeline Riley, who is an up-and-coming author, and she basically catches the attention of a gentleman called Zaid Meadows, okay? And Adeline has just like moved into this house that her great-grandmother left for her. She ends up finding a hole in a wall, like in the house, and within this little hole she finds a diary, and the diary belonged to her great-grandmother Gigi, who she got the house from. And as she's reading this sort of diary, Adeline starts to realize that her grandmother had a stalker, and it's a stalker that she fell in love with. And as I mentioned, Adeline has caught the attention of Zaid Meadows, and history is sort of starting to repeat itself because Adeline starts to see a few whiskey glasses and roses being left around her house. This, I know that sounds so vague and like a bit odd, but I cannot explain to you guys how I said, what is this first book? And then this is one of my favorite books of all time. This is a 6-star infinity star read. Like the series as a whole, you have to. If you've also just read Haunting Adeline and you haven't read Hunting, you need to read them together. There's a reason. It all comes together in here and it is so special. Please check the trigger warnings for this one though. And finally, you guys, I do have a few standalones that I want to talk about as well. These are just some of my like favorites and like go-to recs that they don't either belong to a series or they like didn't fit into a category. So I'm just going to quickly rapid fire through them. So the first one I have is Bride by Ali Hazelwood. This is Ali Hazelwood's like debut into paranormal romance. Now, just as a PSA, I love all of Ali's books. They're so great. If you haven't read any books by Ali Hazelwood yet, please do. They are so fun. This one's a Roman Empire book for me. I can't believe how much I ended up loving this book. It is an arranged marriage between a werewolf and a vampire, but it is just so much more than that. I adore this book so much. Of course, I cannot do a video without mentioning Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. This is the rivals to lovers relationship between the Prince of Wales and the first son of the United States. 2 of them are invited to a royal wedding and they have this pre-established rivalry when we start the book. They end up getting into a physical altercation and they destroy destroy a $75,000 wedding cake. Both of their PR teams are like, you guys need to fix this. It's all over the tabloids. So they sort of start this fake Instagrammable friendship and it goes from there. It is so, I can't even explain to you guys. This is one of my favorite books of all time. And it's like, if you take any recommendation from this list, please let it be this. I get people coming to me after they've read this and they're like, this is the best book I've ever read in my life. And I'm like, I know, I'm right. Next up, we have A Love Letter to Whiskey. This is by Candy Steiner. Now, this is a second chance romance and it's like past, present, and it is just like over and over and over and over and over again of these people like just missing each other. You know what I mean? It's so heartbreaking, but it's so good. We've got a little bit of spice in there, of course. But yeah, if you love like a slow burn, you will love this. Next up, I have The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston, which is a romance, but we've also got a bit of like magical realism in here. This is a book, you know, I was talking about books that are going to teach you a lesson. This is a book that is going to teach you a lesson. A lot of these books will, but this one I love so much. It follows Clementine. She inherits an apartment from her late aunt, and her aunt always sort of said to her that this apartment has magical powers, and Clementine's like, girl, I don't believe you, until she moves in, and one day she sees this very strange man standing in her kitchen who claims he's from 7 years in the past. And this book just like honestly will teach you so much about yourself. You will cry, and it will teach you so many life lessons. It's beautiful. Then I have Morbidly Yours by Ivy Fairbanks. So this follows Callum and Lark. So Lark has just moved to Galway in Ireland from the United States. She's starting a new job there because she is an animator. So she's just got a new job at a new studio, and she unknowingly like moves in next door to a funeral home, which is a little bit triggering for her because there is a reason that she has just left the United States behind. The book opens and there's like a bag of like body bags on her front porch, like a delivery, and she realizes that, you know, they're probably for the next door over. So she ends up going over there and she meets Callum, who is a very quiet funeral home owner. The two of them form a very sweet friendship, and he sort of reveals to her that there is this will where he has to get married by his maybe 35th birthday, I think it is. He needs to find a wife, otherwise he no longer has ownership of this funeral home. So Lark decides to help him find a wife, and it is so special. Again, another one that you don't expect to be so touching. And my final recommendation for you guys today is One True Loves, and this is by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I've read a few books by Taylor Jenkins Reid now, and nothing has like touched me as much as this book here. And this one is definitely an emotional romance, so literally bring your tissues, okay? So this follows Emma and Jesse. So they are high school sweethearts, they're married, they're having a great life together, and one day Jesse is like on a work trip and his little plane that he's on goes missing and he's presumed dead. And it sort of follows this like process that Emma has to go through of like grief and trying to move on, and eventually she does move on and she sort of rekindles with a childhood friend. It blooms into something more, and on the night of their engagement party she gets a phone call and it's from Jesse, and he says, I've been alive this time, someone's finally found me, like they're crashed on an island or whatever, I'm alive and I'm coming back. And it's like this story, this like incredible choice that this woman has to make that I could not fathom doing ever in my entire life, and it is so heartbreaking, and again will just teach you so much about yourself and about life. Alrighty guys, that is all for today's video. Thank you guys so much for sticking through all the way to the end if you did. I really appreciate it. As I was sort of saying at the beginning of this video, you guys, like I am just not here for the slander. I am not here for it. So I hope, I've given you something to potentially read, or people who have not read romance books before. I hope if you do end up picking up any of the books I recommended today that you go, actually like this genre is pretty good, because I feel like it is like the heart and soul of literature. And as I said, a lot of people disregard it and they make fun of people and they belittle people for liking this genre, but it's like I said, it's my primary genre, and it is a genre that I will absolutely love till the end of my days. As always, you guys, if you aren't already, you are more than welcome to follow me on TikTok and on Instagram. I'll leave my handles on the screen and in the description box, and if you'd like to, you can like this video and subscribe to my channel, and make sure you are hitting that notification bell, that way you're notified each time a brand new video goes up. Guys, the 25 in 2025 is coming soon. It's either going to be next week's video or the following one. I do also have a reading 1-star reviews of my favorite 5-star books coming soon, so make sure you got that on, and a reading vlog is coming soon. So lots of exciting things, but I thought, as I said, I just felt so passionate about what was going on, I had to make a video saying how much I love romance. You know what I mean? Thank you guys so much for stopping by again. I really appreciate it. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you're having a lovely day or a lovely night, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.